13. What is it made from? The stone is made out of only one ingredient. Know also that there is only one thing in the whole world that enters into the composition of the stone, and that, therefore, all coagulation, and admixture, of different ingredients, would show you to be on a wrong scent altogether. The Glory of the World, or Table of Paradise, by Anonymous, 1526 AD. From the one substance is evolved, first the white, and then the red tincture. There is one vessel, one goal, and one method. The New Pearl of Great Price, by Peter Bonus, 1338 AD. Not only is there nothing else used than this one ingredient, but you must be careful not to accidentally allow any other matter to become mixed with it. A small amount of dust or water would not ruin the work completely, but will certainly increase the time it takes to make it. For the pure substance is of one simple essence, void of all heterogeneity, but that which is impure and unclean, consists of heterogeneous parts, is not simple, but compounded, to wit of pure and impure, and apt to putrefy and corrupt. Therefore let nothing enter into your composition, which is alien or foreign to the matter, as all impurity is, for nothing goes to the composition of our stone, that proceedeth not from it neither in part nor in whole. If any strange or foreign thing be mixed with it, it is immediately corrupted, and by that corruption your work becomes frustrated. The Root of the World, by Roger Bacon, 13th Ken. The ingredient is urine. I understand this may sound strange, and suspiciously convenient, on first hearing, however, there is sound and logical reasoning for the stone to be made from urine. Firstly, I must explain that the stone could in theory be made from anything, since everything contains the life energy to some degree, which is the active ingredient of the stone. Urine contains this life energy in high concentration, due to the fact that it has just come out of you, and you, as a living animal, are full of life energy. The stone also is in everything, that is, nature is in everything. And because nature has in itself all names, and nature is all the world, therefore the stone has many names and is said to be in everything, although one is nearer than another. Book of the Chemical Art, by Marsilius Ficinus, 15th Ken. Let it be supposed, for an illustration of this subject, that anyone would propose to make malt. He may effect his purpose in the other grains, but barley is generally chosen, because its germ is made to sprout by a less tedious process, which is to all intents and purposes what we want in the extraction of our mercury. On the Philosopher's Stone, by Anonymous, 12th-17th Ken. From the urine we will need to extract a distillate, water, and a salt. The life energy is in the water, and since the life energy is so volatile it will remain with the water even when the water is distilled, evaporated and condensed. Our bodies do not want to reject the life energy in the urine, but have no choice since the life energy is attached to the water. Secondly, urine is the perfect ingredient because it is as of yet undetermined. That is, it has been well filtered, broken down and purified. It contains all kinds of different minerals, but in minute particles not yet assigned to any purpose. Our true and real matter is only a vapor, impregnated with the metallic seed, yet undetermined. Aphorisms of Urbigerus, by Baro Urbigerus, 1690 AD. Following the cycles of nature we can separate the dense and light particles. The lightest particles are a salt. It does not matter what the actual minerals are in the urine, we just want whatever is the lightest and most volatile, which will be in the form of a salt. It is necessary that our stone has a body, it cannot be made with water alone. This salt is the perfect body because it will absorb the water, and is itself most volatile, but still in a solid form. Also, since the salt is newly formed, it is not yet stable and determined and will therefore easily break down, which is what we need it to do. I hope you see the requirements for our substance. We are looking only for water containing an abundance of life energy, and also very light matter which is ready to absorb the water and break down. There is nothing special or magical about urine, it is just that urine is already pure and pre-filtered by our bodies, and it meets all the qualifications we are looking for. Other substances could be used, but urine has been found to be the most efficient by the alchemists, many of whom experimented with many different substances. The best urine to use is that of a dark yellow color, since this means there is less water and more body, which is useful in the first part of the work. Therefore, the best time to collect the urine to be used for making the stone is the first time you urinate in the morning. This fact has become an open secret, as you can see from the society so named, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, who managed to figure out the true ingredient for the philosopher's stone, but unfortunately thought that this itself was a metaphor. So to recap, the only ingredient of the philosopher's stone is urine, preferably obtained in the morning. You will need around 1 liter. Following are some nice riddles from various alchemical books showing that the ingredient is urine. This matter lies before the eyes of all. Everybody sees it, touches it, loves it, but knows it not. It is glorious and vile, precious and of small account, and is found everywhere. The Golden Tract concerning the stone of the philosophers, by an anonymous German philosopher, 16th-17th Ken. Know that our Mercury is before the eyes of all men, though it is known to few. When it is prepared, its splendor is most admirable, but the sight is vouchsafed to none, save the sons of knowledge. Do not despise it, therefore, when you see it in sordid guise, for if you do, you will never accomplish our majesty, and if you can change its countenance, the transformation will be glorious. For our water is a most pure virgin, and is loved of many, but meets all her wooers in foul garments, in order that she may be able to distinguish the worthy from the unworthy. The Fount of Chemical Truth, by Irenaeus Philalethes, 1694 AD. When you shall be acquainted with the causes of this disposition, you will admire that a matter so corrupt should contain in itself such a heavenly-like nature. Verbum dismissum, by Count Bernard Trevisan, 15th Ken. By the ignorant and the beginner it is thought to be the vilest and meanest of things. It is sought by many sages, and found by few. Men have it before their eyes, handle it with their hands, yet know it not, though they constantly tread it under their feet. The matter is very common, and may be everywhere obtained in abundance. The Sophie Hydrolith, or water stone of the wise, by Anonymous, 17th Ken. Our substance is openly displayed before the eyes of all, and yet is not known. Our water that does not wet the hands. The New Chemical Light, by Michael Sendivogius, 17th Ken. There is something which everyone recognizes, and whoever does not recognize it will rarely, perhaps never find it. The wise man will keep it and the fool will throw it away, and the reduction comes easily to the man who knows it. A magnificent and select tract on philosophical water, by Anonymous, 13th-17th Ken. The wonderful Tao exists not far away from your own body. It is not necessarily found in the high mountains or in unknown waters. 3 Alchemical Poems, by Chang Po Tuan, 11th Ken. Chinese. There is only one spring in all the world from which this water may be obtained. It issues in a secret place, and its waters flow over all the world. It is familiar to all, yet none knows the principle, reason, or way to find the spring. For this reason, that sage might well exclaim, "O water of a harsh and bitter taste." For, in truth, the spring is difficult to find, but he who knows it may reach it easily, without any expense, labor, or trouble. The water is, of its own nature, harsh and bitter, so that no one can partake of it, and, because it is of little use to the majority of mankind, the sage doth also exclaim, "O water, that art lightly esteemed by the vulgar, who do not perceive thy great virtues, in thee lie, as it were, hid the 4 elements. Thou hast power to dissolve, and conserve, and join nature, such as is possessed by no other thing upon earth. It is called rebus, 2 thing, is a stone, salt, 1 body, and, to the majority of mankind, a vile and despised thing. Our matter is one of the common nest things upon earth, and contains within itself the 4 elements. It is, indeed, nothing short of marvelous that so many seek so ordinary a thing, and yet are unable to find it. The 2 are really only one very limpid water, which is so bitter as to be quite undrinkable. The quantity of this water is so great that it flows over the whole earth, yet leads to nothing but the knowledge of this art. The same also is misused too often by those who desire it. Take also the fire, and in it you will find the stone, and nowhere else in the whole world. It is familiar to all men, both young and old, is found in the country, in the village, in the town, in all things created by God. Yet it is despised by all. Rich and poor handle it every day. It is cast into the street by servant maids. Children play with it, yet no one prizes it, though, next to the human soul, it is the most beautiful and the most precious thing upon earth, and has power to pull down kings and princes. Nevertheless, it is esteemed the vilest and meanest of earthly things. It is cast away and rejected by all. For the stone is prepared out of nothing in the whole world, except this substance, which is essentially one. He who is unacquainted therewith can never attain the art. It is that one thing which is not dug up from mines, or from the caverns of the earth, like gold, silver, sulfur, salt, and sea, but is found in the form which God originally imparted to it. It is fanned and manifested by an excessive thickening of air. As soon as it leaves its body, it is clearly seen, but it vanishes without a trace as soon as it touches the earth, and, as it is never seen again, it must therefore be caught while it is still in the air. For no one would dream of buying the true matter at the apothecary's, nay, that tradesman daily casts it into the street as worthless refuse. 37. Pythagoras, in his fourth table, says, "How wonderful is the agreement of sages in the midst of difference! They all say that they have prepared the stone out of a substance which by the vulgar is looked upon as the vilest thing on earth. Indeed, if we were to tell the vulgar herd the ordinary name of our substance, they would look upon our assertion as a daring falsehood. But if they were acquainted with its virtue and efficacy, they would not despise that which is, in reality, the most precious thing in the world. God has concealed this mystery from the foolish, the ignorant, the wicked, and the scornful, in order that they may not use it for evil purposes. The stone is mystic, or secret, because it is found in a secret place, in an universally despised substance where no one looks for the greatest treasure of the world. Hence it may well be called the hidden stone. The Glory of the World, or Table of Paradise, by Anonymous, 1526 AD. 14. The time. It's difficult to determine exactly how long it will take to make the stone, since this depends upon many factors. The main factors which affect the time are: 1. How well you distill and purify your substance in the first part. 2. How accurate is the degree of heat. 3. The ambient, room, temperature. 4. The size and shape of your vessel, flask. 5. The quantity of the substance. There are also other less important factors, such as air pressure and astrological implications, but these are outside of your control and so not worth worrying about. Compare Oral. Augural L. Book 3. Ye scarcely will anyone so exactly compute the years. A. Not either to diminish or add to their number. For suitable material will sometimes accelerate the process, and unsuitable retard the same. Or intense heat will by a little exceed the measure, but water by much. And time and place will vary. An explanation of the natural philosopher's tincture, of Paracelsus, by Alexander von Suchten, 16th Ken. However, an average amount of time for the whole process is 3 years. You could possibly get this down to 18 months if you take more effort in the first part and have all the factors under strict control. Also, it could easily take 5 or even 8 years if the conditions are not so good. It takes a long time to make the stone, but the work is not hard, nor does it require much effort. For the most part you simply need to check on the progress whenever you like, or at least every couple of weeks. Therefore even a very busy person can find time to make the stone. The time is long but the work is easy. The alchemical books are very obscure with the time. They do it on purpose to test the patience and dedication of the beginner. It works. Most people have no idea it takes years to make the stone, and so eventually give up, even if they were on the right track. Some of the alchemical books directly lie about how long it takes, but as a rough guide you can assume they mean a year when they say a month when they say a week, and a week when they say a day. The proper duration of our magistery, and the day and hour of his nativity and generation, are also shrouded in obscurity. Its conception, indeed, takes place in a single moment. Here we are to notice the conjunction of the purified elements and the germ of the whole matter. But if we do not know this, we know nothing of the entire magistery. There are certain signs which occur with great regularity, at their own proper times and seasons, in the development of this stone. But if we do not understand what they are, we are as hopelessly in the dark as before. The same remark applies to the exact proportions in which the different elements enter into its composition. The time required for the whole operation is stated by Rhasis to be 1 year. Rosinus fixes it at 9 months, others at 7, others at 40, and yet others at 80 days. I knew a man, says Gregory, who began the work in the right way, and achieved the white tincture. But when there was some delay about the appearance of the red color, he gave up in despair, etc. This man knew the simple elements of our art, their purification, commixion, and the different signs which were to appear. He was ignorant only of the day and hour in which the conjunction of the simple elements and the completion of the work might be expected. And because he did not know what to do at the right time, the whole magistery vanished from his sight. For the white stone was not yet fixed, and, being exposed to too much heat, it evaporated. The New Pearl of Great Price, by Peter Bonus, 1338 AD. The wise reduce years to months, months to weeks, weeks to days. A Golden and Blessed Casket of Nature's Marvels, by Benedictus Figulus, 1607 AD. You should certainly try to optimize the heat and other factors in order to make the stone sooner. However, you should not rush the stone. You can't rush nature. If you want to accelerate nature, you have to play by its rules, it won't play by yours. Bear in mind that the chief error in this art is haste. The Epistle of Bonus of Ferrara, by Peter Bonus, 14th century. You must not yield to despondency, or attempt to hasten the chemical process of dissolution. For if you do so by means of violent heat, the substance will be prematurely parched up into a red powder, and the active vital principle in it will become passive, being knocked on the head, as it were, with a hammer. Patience is, therefore, the great cardinal virtue in alchemy. A Brief Guide to the Celestial Ruby, by Irenaeus Philalethes, 1694 AD. You must exercise considerable patience in preparing our elixir, if it is to become all that you wish it to become. No fruit can grow from a flower that has been plucked before the time. Phi, who is in too great a hurry, can bring nothing to perfection, but is almost sure to spoil that which he has in hand. The 12 Keys, by Basilius Valentinus, 15th Ken. The greater haste we make, the less will be our speed. The Chemical Treatise, or, The Ordinal of Alchemy, by Thomas Norton, 1477 AD. 15. The heat. Most of the work in making the stone consists of optimizing the heat to be the perfect temperature. The degree of heat must be under strict control. Too much and you will destroy the work, too little and it will not develop. The external fire of the furnace should be neither too violent, in order that the equilibrium of chemical forces in the substance may not be disturbed, nor yet too gentle, so that the action of the inward fire may not languish for want of outward heat. It should be just such as to keep up an equable vital warmth. A Brief Guide to the Celestial Ruby, by Irenaeus Philalethes, 1694 AD. The happy prosecution of the whole work consists in the exact temperament of the fire. Therefore beware of too much heat, lest you come to solution before the time, viz. before the matter is ripe, for that will bring you to despair of attaining the end of your hopes. Close up well thy vessel, and pursue to the end. For there is no generation of things, but by putrefaction, by keeping out the air, and a continual internal motion, with an equal and gentle heat. The Root of the World, by Roger Bacon, 13th Ken. In the first part of the work and the very last part, you will be using high heat. A high degree of heat is called by the alchemists a dry heat, because it causes all the moisture to be evaporated. To avoid damaging the glassware, the maximum temperature you should use is 500 degrees Fahrenheit, 260 degrees Celsius. However, the majority of the work requires a moist heat, which means that the body is never dried out completely, and the moisture is circulating. A moist heat evaporates off most, but not all, of the moisture, then allows it to condense and rain back down onto the body, in an imitation of nature's water cycle. The exact degree of heat required is, like the time it takes, difficult to state as an absolute since it is relative and depends on your matter and vessel. The trick is just to adjust the heat so that the moisture circulates, evaporates and condenses, as efficiently as possible. The water, or fire, being subtle, ascends, while the body is hard, and remains where it is. The separation must be accomplished by gentle heat, i.e., in the temperate bath of the sages, which acts slowly, and is neither too hot nor too cold. Then the stone ascends to heaven, and again descends from heaven to earth. The spirit and body are first separated, then again joined together by gentle coction, of a temperature resembling that with which a hen hatches her eggs. The Glory of the World, or Table of Paradise, by Anonymous, 1526 AD. This then is the thing, that the vessel with the medicine be put into a moist fire, to wit, that the middle or one half of the vessel be in a moist fire, or orbal neo, of equal heat with halstung, and the other half out of the fire, that you may daily look into it. The Root of the World, by Roger Bacon, 13th Ken. In the beginning of the second part, the degree of heat required will likely be equal to, or slightly above, body temperature, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. The heat will need to be increased as the stone develops to the black, white and red stages. Common sense should be able to inform you of the degree of heat required. It should be a comforting degree of heat, not an aggressive degree of heat, and it should support the circulation of the moisture. Therefore saith Rhasis, be very diligent and careful in the sublimation and liquefaction of the matter, that you increase not your fire too much, whereby the water may ascend to the highest part of the vessel. For then wanting a place of refrigeration, it will stick fast there, whereby the sulfur of the elements will not be perfected. For indeed in this work, it is necessary that they be many times elevated, or sublimed, and depressed again. And the gentle or temperate fire is that only which completes the mixture, makes thick, and perfects the work. The Root of the World, by Roger Bacon, 13th Ken. 16. Different methods. As you may have guessed, there is not only one possible method or one possible ingredient in the world for the making of the stone. There are several ways to get to the same place. As long as you are following the rules of nature, you will get the stone by whatever method you use. Some methods will be more efficient, quicker, than others. Many ways have been sought to the tincture of the philosophers, which finally all came to the same scope and end. The book concerning the tincture of the philosophers, by Theophrastus Paracelsus, 16th Ken. For the making whereof several operations have been invented by several philosophers, that might be completed by art which was left by nature, since nature herself is always inclined toward her own perfection. Book of the Chemical Art, by Marsilius Ficinus, 15th Ken. The method I am presenting in this book is, I'm sure, not the most efficient method possible. But it is the method I know and is a tried and tested method, developed over thousands of years by some of the greatest minds. It is the first part of the work which is most open to alternative methods. The ingredient you choose, which for us is urine, could be something else, if you could find something more pure with the right qualities. There may also be a more efficient method of processing the ingredient than the one I will give in the following chapters. The second difficulty consists in the apparent disagreement of those who profess to exercise our art at the present day. Amongst those persons are observed a great diversity of method, and a considerable variety even in the choice of their substance. It appears indeed as if there were many roads to our art, and not one only. Geber avers that there are many ways to produce one effect. The same opinion is expressed by Rhasis in his book on the perfect magistery, where he speaks of bodies and spirits, and their purification and divers and manifold composition. The New Pearl of Great Price, by Peter Bonus, 1338 AD. In order to predict other substances which could be used as our ingredient, we must consider the laws and cycles of nature. A good understanding of nature and alchemy, understanding how and why the process works, will enable you to also guess at other substances which could be used. It makes sense to me that urine is most efficient for the extraction of the body, salt, and also contains much life energy in its water. However, it would make logical sense that semen, blood and fresh fruit juice also contain a high concentration of life energy, which is the active principle, perhaps more than urine, or perhaps not. I have not experimented with these, as in my experience it takes so long to experiment that it would be quicker to just make the stone the traditional way. We can certainly be sure that the alchemists tried different substances and experiments themselves, and since all of the more recent alchemists, since the 16th century, certainly used urine, it would be logical to assume that urine is the best choice of ingredient. But it is also possible they did not publish their experiments in other substances if they found one to greatly decrease the time it takes, since the old alchemists would want to test the dedication of the beginner. For the body you are looking for a very volatile salt, which can absorb the moisture and break down. The water must contain an abundance of life energy. Both must be pure, containing as little as possible of anything else. It is not necessary that we use only one substance for both, but it has been found that urine supplies both requirements. It would be possible to use the salt of the urine, but the water from another substance. Nevertheless, the safe and sure option is to use urine, and it is the method I will present. For anyone who wishes to try a different substance, it would be wise to make the stone with only urine at the same time and in parallel, so as you do not waste too much of your time if your method fails. To use a different substance, follow the same instructions as I present, only substituting your substance for the urine. The method I present, using only urine, is a relatively new one. It is sometimes called the dry method, due to the calcination in the first part, and made famous, among the alchemists, by Paracelsus in the 16th century. Though it is probably an older method, which Paracelsus rediscovered. The older alchemists, before Paracelsus, used distilled urine and gold, which is less efficient, and more expensive, than using only urine. It takes more than twice the time as the urine-only method. By the older method, using distilled urine and gold, sometimes called the wet method, one would be relying on the life energy in the distilled urine to break down the gold. This will work because gold is a very pure substance, with a lot of life energy inside it, and will eventually break down with a little convincing from the distilled urine. But it makes much more sense to use the lighter particles from the urine itself, as these are pure, but not so dense and not already determined like gold. Hereof I have now determined to write much, although in the beginning of this book one decreed to bury it in silence. This is the one great sophism of all adepts. Some speak of this common gold and silver, and say the truth, and others say that we cannot use it, and they too say the truth. But in the presence of God I will call all our adepts to account, and charge them with jealous surliness. I, too, had determined to tread the same path, but God's hand confounded my scheme. I say then, that both ways are true, and come to the same thing in the end, but there is a vast difference at the beginning. An open entrance to the closed palace of the king, by an anonymous sage and lover of truth, 1645 AD. Theophrastus shows you two ways, one ancient, the other discovered and used by himself, saying the ancients had a very long way, before accomplishing the aforesaid separations and achieving their object. In the beginning they, out of a simplex, or also out of a subjectivum like God himself, and also Theophrastus, have made two things, viz., water and earth. And he continues to say, that artists have to these two simplices given the name lily, afterwards using the said simplices and not one. But no, it is indifferent whether you, in the beginning, use one or two things. If our matter is found in one thing, it will equally well be found in two, nature having already converted the original one into two. Now, what there is no one who would not wish to know this shorter method, and that you may not have to complain of Theophrastus, he shows you another short way, admonishing you also to let the above tedious process be, and to take from the lion naught but his rosy blood, and from the eagle the white gluten. These two bodies you must coagulate together and bring into one body, as it were male and female seed. An explanation of the natural philosopher's tincture, of Paracelsus, by Alexander von Suchten, 16th Ken. If you know how to amalgamate our mercury simplex with your common gold, which is dissolved, vivified, and renewed by it, you may be sure of effecting the great elixir, although neither so quick, so natural, nor so rich, as you might have done without it. And this is our third way. The amalgamation of our mercury simplex, distilled urine, with common gold consists only in the right proportion, and in the indissoluble union of both, which is done without any external heat in a very short time. This is a lie, it takes a very long time, without which exact proportion and right union nothing of any moment is to be expected from their marriage. Know then, that this right proportion is 10 parts of our mercury simplex to one of your finest common gold in filings, which is dissolved in it, like ice in common water, after an imperceptible manner, and as soon as the dissolution is over, the coagulation and putrefaction presently follow, which effect, if you find not, 'tis a sign, that the mercury exceeds its due proportion. Now when your gold has been thus well amalgamated, united, putrefied, and inseparably digested with our mercury simplex, you will then have only our philosophical sulfur, in which time one might easily have performed the whole work, working without common gold. Aphorisms of Urbigerus, by Baro Urbigerus, 1690 AD.